It's a devastating one as well. Oh, my goodness, the feet. I think it was McCreadie there. On Bremner, possibly. The feet were really high then, and the referees just allowed it to go on. That had to be dangerous.
They called him distant, said he trained too hard, said he didn't lead like the others, said he held on too long. Eddie McCreadie never answered, never explained. He just kept showing up. Every tackle, every match, every collapse. Some didn't like how he stayed calm when the club panicked, how focused he was when others coasted, how loyal he stayed when it was easier to leave. They said he wasn't emotional enough, said he wasn't made for the spotlight, said he didn't play politics, didn't flatter the press, didn't chase the myth. But behind the silence was a man who gave them everything: structure, discipline, wins. And when it mattered most, they didn't give him back even the basics. He lasted through eras meant to push him out, through wars disguised as matches, through a club that never gave him what he earned. But they never stopped misreading him. And on the pitch, there were 5 who tried to break him with force, not words. They didn't want to stop him. They wanted to erase him, prove the silence meant weakness. They failed. Subscribed because some legends weren't misunderstood. They were mishandled from the start. They didn't want to stop Eddie McCreadie. They wanted to see what he'd take before he cracked. Leeds didn't just play football. They dragged teams into the dirt and dared them to fight their way out. Bremner led it, a captain with fire in his chest and something mean behind his eyes. He didn't shake hands, he made enemies. And when he saw McCreadie in that blue kit under the Old Trafford lights, he came for him. So McCreadie came back. Fast, high, hard. A flying challenge that didn't ask permission. Didn't wait for the whistle. The crowd gasped. Bremner went down, and the match kept going. But it wasn't just him. Norman Hunter circled like a man with old debts to collect. Johnny Giles lunged like every tackle was a message. Lorimer struck like lightning from the edge of everything. And Charlton, Jack Charlton, watched from the back line, waiting for his moment to leave a mark no one could miss. They all came for McCreadie, and still, he didn't step away. He threw himself into every hit, cleared when his ribs screamed, played like the badge wasn't for decoration. It was a debt. That match didn't just leave bruises, it left silence. No one needed to talk about what happened. Everyone remembered. And McCreadie? He didn't point to the scoreboard. He just walked off the pitch the same way he walked on. Like someone you don't test twice. Rome was supposed to be about football. But in 1965 it became something else. The tie was already boiling. Chelsea hosted AS Roma at Stamford Bridge amid tension. Bottles, shouts, a wall of red and yellow sound. But Eddie McCreadie had no interest in the theatre. He was there to defend, to keep it clean, until someone made it dirty. Lamberto Leonardi didn't wait for the whistle. He grabbed McCreadie by the throat, kicked him, left a gash in his leg that needed stitching. And McCreadie, he didn't appeal, didn't fall, didn't wave at the referee. McCreadie sent off after hitting back. The Daily Mirror printed it clean. Brawl as Chelsea win. No one talked about tactics. No one remembered the pass before the goal. They remembered fists. They remembered the fight. That night, Eddie didn't just defend his box, he defended himself. No press conference, no public complaint. Just bruises, silence and a win. Rome tested his patience, tested his pride, tested whether he'd fight back when football turned personal. He passed, and when the boots stopped flying, when the tunnel swallowed the noise, Leonardi had nothing more to say. Neither did McCreadie. London derbies never needed hype. Chelsea versus Spurs was already war. And Eddie McCreadie never treated it like anything less. Across from him stood Mike England, 6'2", broad, deliberate, the kind of defender who didn't speak unless it hurt. There were no cameras chasing drama in those matches, just fists in rib cages, knees into thighs, shoves when the ball was already gone. England didn't play dirty, he played heavy. And when McCreadie stepped near him, the match got honest. No diving, no handshakes. Just 2 men who understood that defending was a test of who stayed standing longer. McCreadie didn't flinch, didn't move around him, he went through him. And England, he respected it, not out loud, but with the way he matched every shove McCreadie gave him. It was a quiet kind of fight. No red cards, no headlines. Just the kind of contact you feel 2 days later when your body stops lying. Not every rivalry needed blood. Sometimes all it took was 90 minutes of mutual punishment. No complaints, no winners, just 2 walls that refused to crack first. Martin Chivers didn't need to talk. He let his goals do the damage. Fast, sharp, unpredictable. He was the kind of striker who made defenders panic, who drifted into spaces and left men behind with a single shoulder drop. But not Eddie McCreadie. He didn't fall for the movement, didn't dive in, didn't chase. He watched, waited, timed it. And when Chivers turned, McCreadie was there. Not lunging, not desperate. Just exactly where he needed to be. Chivers had the power. McCreadie had the pattern. They met in every derby like it was the first time. No memory, no favours, no warnings. There were no cheap fouls, no fake pain, just boots clipping ankles, knees checking ribs, arms across throats when no one was looking. It wasn't personal, it was professional. Because Chivers wanted goals, and McCreadie was the man built to interrupt them. He didn't stop Chivers every time. No one could. But when the whistle blew, McCreadie's shirt was dirty, his legs bruised, and the man in front of him never had an easy minute. That was the job. Francis Lee didn't need a reason to hit you. He played with his elbows up, with his jaw clenched, with a kind of anger that never asked for the ball. Just demanded the space around it. Main Road was loud. Lee was louder. Not with words, with collisions. He ran like a man chasing something he lost. And when he found Eddie McCreadie in his way, he didn't go around, he went through. Most defenders panicked, dropped off, tried to cover space and pray Lee didn't turn inside. McCreadie didn't step back, didn't backpedal. He braced, Lee hit him. Again, and McCreadie stayed there. Not out of pride, out of principle. If he gave an inch, Lee would take a yard. And McCreadie didn't give. He didn't dive, didn't beg, didn't retaliate. He absorbed. He delivered. And he moved on. The records won't show the bruises. The match reports won't mention the pain. But ask anyone who played that day. Francis Lee brought fire. Eddie McCreadie held the line. And when it was over, neither man spoke a word. Because they knew what it cost. They say every great club has a spine. But when Chelsea broke, Eddie McCreadie became the spine. He held them up when no one else would. He wasn't just a caretaker. He was a rescuer. A man who turned a collapsing Chelsea into a future again. No budget, no ego, no excuses. He built it from boys. From belief. From the wreckage of a ruined club. He made them run. Made them play. Made them fearless. Ray Wilkins wore the armband. Tommy Langley found the net. Steve Finneyson carried the charge. And behind it all, McCreadie's fingerprints. He didn't just manage, he fathered a team. And when the revival came, when Stamford Bridge felt alive again, he didn't ask for riches. He asked for a club car. A symbol of respect, a gesture. They refused. Flat, cold, final. They offered him nothing. Not a thank you, not a reason. Just silence. So he walked. With dignity. With quiet pain. With no press farewell and no fan tribute. And what happened after? Collapse. Chelsea sank. The spirit faded. The young players drifted. And the club spent years paying for a decision they never owned. Eddie never begged to return. He never explained the full story. But when asked later about the decision, he said, "All I wanted was a car. Not for me, for what I represented." But they didn't see it. Or maybe they didn't want to. They erased the man who saved them because they didn't want to pay the price of memory. But legacies don't vanish just because boardrooms forget. And every Chelsea fan who remembers that time, remembers who built the bridge back up. He didn't walk alone. Even in the hardest days, when the crowds thinned, when the goals dried up, when the boardroom turned cold, there were men who still ran for Eddie McCreadie, not because they had to, because they wanted to. Peter Houseman wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but McCreadie saw in him what others missed. A quiet fire, always burning. He gave Houseman space, trust, freedom to prove he wasn't just a squad player. And when Chelsea rose in 1970, it was Houseman who answered. 2 goals in the FA Cup semi-final, an assist in the final replay. No noise, just impact. Then there was Ian Hutchinson, built like a tank, arms like catapults, a forward with throw-ins like missiles, and a heart that belonged in battle. McCreadie believed in him, not as a gimmick, but as a fighter. And Hutchinson became one. Together these men helped deliver trophies. Because long before he was a manager, Eddie McCreadie had been the foundation. He arrived at Chelsea in 1962, a Scottish fullback with pace, discipline, and steel. Over 400 appearances. Stunning solo goal versus Leicester at Stamford Bridge in the first leg of the 1965 League Cup final, a goal some still call the best in Chelsea history. That win, Chelsea's first major trophy. He didn't scream about legacy, he built it. League Cup winner, FA Cup winner, as player. The man who handed Ray Wilkins the armband at 18. The man who revived the club after relegation and crisis. He didn't bring stars, he created them. And the men who played for him, they knew. Even when the club turned its back, they didn't. And when tragedy came, Houseman taken in a car crash, Hutchinson broken by injury, Eddie never grandstanded. He just said they were the kind of men who never let you down. That's what mattered to him. Not awards, not headlines, just loyalty. Because Eddie McCreadie didn't believe in building fame. He believed in building teams, and some of those men were willing to fight to the end for him. Eddie McCreadie never gave them the ending they wanted, because if he had, it would have meant they won. After Chelsea turned their backs on him, over a car, over control, over what he'd built, he left. No parade, no final interview, no soft farewell. He crossed the Atlantic to Memphis Rogues, the NASL, a forgotten league in a fading era, but he still coached with fire, still lived with principle, still refused to bow, and then he disappeared. No autobiography, no pundit seat, no return to Stamford Bridge. He didn't explain himself, didn't ask to be remembered, didn't come back for applause. Because Eddie McCreadie knew something they didn't. Some legacies echo louder when left unfinished. He was 37 when Chelsea forced him out. He never managed in England again. He built a quiet life in Tennessee. No scandals, no headlines. Just a man who once made greatness and walked away from it. Today he's 85, still private and still proud. Still living by the same fire that once terrified wingers and rattled club directors. They'll try to forget him, try to rewrite it, but they can't. Because real Chelsea fans still remember. They know what he gave. They know what he built. They know that without Eddie, there's no modern Chelsea. A brilliant left-back, a fierce captain, a player who helped win their first FA Cup, and a man who never let the badge define him, because he was the badge when they needed it most. He won't forgive what they did, and he won't let them forget, because some absences speak louder than any tribute. And Eddie McCreadie's silence, it still hurts them. Subscribe, because some legacies were never broken, just buried, and we dig them back up every time.